Enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of light spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. Attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. On the face of all mankind, our numbers up and the dead for a time. Go along to get along in the tide by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's worldwide genocide. The overlords are hungry parasites. They point the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. Pile of bodies rotting, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. Strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Really fuck with them, Cop.
Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is
Saturday.
What were you wanting me to do there?
I don't remember what day it is. It is Sunday.
You wanted me to mess with them somehow or another, and I started the show while you were still saying it. So anyway, it's
July 13th.
Don't make me lose half my summer.
already back there, huh? Dang, I missed Christmas.
Summer.
I know that this year has flown by. But... Well, how y'all doing? It's actually December the 11th, 2022. We're coming to you live from Carter County, Tennessee. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim and Dustin as you head down the table there. And we're so glad to have you join us for our 65th episode. That's right. The big 6-5.
We're almost to the funny number.
That's right. Oh, yeah. And we could...
Number.
Nice.
The noise number.
We're going to do a whole episode.
We could. We'd really need Tammy to step back up and sponsor us again. But
We should get
I don't think she's going to after
a
the
whole group
fiasco
of
last
just
time.
females to come in and sit in and run the whole show for the whole episode, just for the 69th one.
That
They
would be
dress
interesting,
just like
yeah.
we do.
Dressed just like us. Yeah.
And act just like we do, and then don't tell
Fake
anyone.
beard for the
Yeah.
golf. Fake beard for the Tim too. I guess I forgot I had one of those.
Fake beards for all of us.
Oh yeah. I guess I forget we are men now.
And this thing, actually, this comes full circle because, believe it or not, you guys, one of the things I'm going to talk about tonight
Is
is the
beards?
male versus female symbolism with the NASA space missions, what with the Artemis and Orion mission going right now, and the Apollo missions of the past going to the moon. So we'll get into that a little bit later. It's going to be a fun talk. We're going to talk mythology. We're going to talk meanings behind some of these missions. And before we get into that, we are going to go through some mysterious space objects, and we're also going to tell you about the moon trees and the moon tree of Sycamore Shoals, which
That's no man.
it's a space station. Yes, and there is that theory too, isn't there, Dustin, that
Yep.
the moon is a space station. What's
That
up,
was
Dalton?
It's like, how are you, Harry Face Bell is doing? It's like, and that was actually on there before
yeah,
we
your
started
chat's
talking
missing.
about it.
We are hairy faced tonight. I've let my beard go out because I have been lazy and I don't want to trim or shave.
It's Don't Shave December.
Yeah, sure. And you could make one for every month. Just don't shave
Just grow
January.
in January.
Fuck it, don't shave
Yep.
February.
Fuck it, February.
And so on. There are many reasons.
Mustache March.
There you go. And you can find
No,
justification.
I gotta leave it. I couldn't just do the mustache. That'd be like too borderline Preto stash, you know.
I do it for a little while. I look like a police officer, and everybody is very nervous around me when I rock
Are you
just a
nervous
mustache.
because you look like a police officer?
Well,
Are
I'm
they nervous
bald
because you
head
look
because I'm not wearing the white New Balance tennis shoes. So I think they think I'm a police officer because I have the mustache and the bald head, and
It's like, this guy's a fan.
usually have a few things clipped in my pockets. So yeah,
candy.
like a flashlight and a pocket knife.
Oh, don't tell me. Like, are you walking around like on your day off
Wink, wink.
with like the dad socks pulled up and like basically it looks like a utility belt
Oh, yeah.
Batman should carry?
Yeah, pretty
You
much.
look like Batman walking through Walmart.
I got my flashlight, got my pocket knife, always have a pen.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll find you when the Taliban attack her.
Hey, you never know when you might need to cut something, man. You never know when
Or
you
you
might
never
need to
know when
find
there's
something.
cake.
That's true. That's true.
That's that saying. I forgot what dude said that, like war dude. He's like, you should always carry a knife because you never know when there might be cake or someone needs to be cut.
I
Oh,
don't
wait.
carry a utility belt, but I do carry usually a small pocket knife, lighter, something like that. But I leave my grappling hook and my smoke bombs at home. My AK stays.
Unless it's Wednesday.
I only carry my AK on Thursdays.
What do you guys think about open carry?
Well, I can piss people off with it, but I honestly don't really have much of an opinion on it.
Never been like, I mean, I'd rather nobody know that I have it.
Yeah.
Because it makes it to where it's like, do you or do you not? Because it's like sometimes, especially if you are going to open carry, invest in proper holstering. Don't buy the cheap Uncle Mike's holster.
You know, like a
that-
level 3 retention system.
Yeah.
So that
Or
only you can draw it.
Yeah. Or, at least it not be in it like it's in like just a smooth little sock glove that if you jerk too hard, it's going to fall out somewhere.
I'm all for people doing open carry, and I applaud you if you do so. I'm kind of the same way. I'd just assume nobody know that I'm carrying if I'm carrying. But here I am on the internet talking about carrying, but you don't know if I do or not, do you? But sometimes the urge is there though to just slap a rifle caliber pistol over the shoulder and carry it around on a strap, but you draw way too much attention to yourself. And
That's the thing. I like being invisible unless I want people to notice me. So it's, if you're under the radar like that, it's like, hey, if a shitty situation arises, you're not sticking out.
But
You'd rather John McClane it and have it duct taped to your shoulder blade.
Yes.
yeah.
Like right now.
Crap, I can't reach it. It's stuck. It's a little 22.
It's in the spot. It's in the spot I can't get.
Total sidebar, but I just thought I'd bring it up because it's it is legal in Tennessee now.
I mean,
As a-
okay, well, the
and you do see
devil's-
people doing it sometimes.
To play the person that could make it go wrong, do you think being a I don't know. Do you think maybe if you carry a gun, maybe you should have to show that you got it? Is that a thought process? Maybe to
But there's some places that do have that, and I think that was, well, Tennessee's their Declaration of Rights says, so I think it's Article 17 in the Declaration of Rights says that shall be no infringement on the right to keep and bear arms, but it says the state legislature may regulate the wearing of arms with an aim to prevent crime. So that may be one of those things. It's evolved over the years. Right now, open carry or concealed carry is legal. But I think in the past it was things like you had to carry open, or if you were concealed, you had to have some kind of law enforcement backing or saying it was okay in some way or another for you to carry concealed.
I actually think, like, when did they start doing, like...
But it was different by the county.
Yeah.
Well, because I could see how it could go wrong is if you just say conceal, open, whatever, like, because some person would just have a gun, like, in their windbreaker just dancing around.
They do.
Yeah, that's the thing people do anyway, regardless of whether it's legal. That's the whole thing.
Like, rather than have it like that, if you're gonna strap up and make everybody be like I think it's Brandon Marlowe from Trigun, where everyone in the town has a gun. That's the whole catch of the episode. I know I brought that up more than once for gun control. But like, if everyone's required to have it, I think there needs to be a level of safety involved in it, because some people just, I mean, you can break your foot on anything. You imagine what anybody could do with a gun if they just weren't trained.
Yeah, I think people should have the option to do either way they want, but if you do decide to carry, I think it's on you to have the responsibility.
I'm going to vote for fascism on this one. I'm going to vote that everyone has to carry a gun, but they have to wear it right here on their arm for easy access and to show everyone that they got it.
All right.
Realistically, if you had a good retention holster and had it down, it would be a good
That's what I'm saying.
That's not. I mean, that's my kind of fascism. you have to carry a gun.
I'm only on here to get them to say things that I think are funny.
Yeah, now he's gonna clip
it's
that.
It's all one giant bait and switch.
He's gonna clip that.
A year-long plot to get them to say a series of crazier and crazier things.
Oh, you put Kanye on there and have me talk about it. There's no telling what I might say that you could use against me that I don't intend in the way that it sounds like. But yeah, I think Dustin was onto something there.
So this is Mars.
Yes.
What we're looking at right
Yeah, we'll get into that. Appreciate you sticking with us during our green room segment while we discuss some event or another or some idea, and we move on to the next thing. It could be current events, it could be politics, it could be history, it could be science. Who the hell knows? Whatever comes up to our minds. Before we move on to the main topic of the show,
don't read.
Man, I got to tell you, I got a trove of some killer esoteric books from all different kinds of stuff. So I've got a lot of interesting information to be sharing with the channel. Some of them behind you there. I've got some the new encyclopedia of Freemasonry, the Magus of Freemasonry, Master of the Mysteries about Manly P. Palmer, and I've got a whole stack of other stuff upstairs about the pyramids and
Pete's flies.
Serpents of the Sky, all kinds of neat stuff. Now that one, I would have liked to have included some of the stuff from Serpents in the Sky on here, but it's a little bit above my pay grade at this point because not familiar enough with the material to be able to put it in here. But one of the things that I have been seeing for years is the Black Knight satellite. You guys have heard about this, have you?
I don't think maybe I have seen these pictures and I've just not seen them in a while, but doesn't it look like Boba Fett's ship?
Yeah.
Or maybe it looks like a powered down ship that's going nose down and is just kind of coasting.
Kind of looks like the Slave One. And there's the story.
If you tipped it this way, and if this nose was aimed more to the right, and this was the boosters.
Yeah. And there's some people say it looks like a knight wearing armor. And there's a story that it's 13,000 years old. And the official story for this, and honestly I believe it, is that it's a piece of. Let's look here.
Sorry.
That's all right. You're good.
I'm buffering again.
We're buffering.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't us.
Well, I hope everything's good.
It's just YouTube, though.
The Black Knight satellite. Now, this is Popular Mechanics. Y'all know how I feel about Popular Mechanics. They're actually what you don't know how I feel about Popular Mechanics. They're actually what kind of led me to becoming red-pilled on a lot of different topics.
He just said he was red-pilled.
Because they were, and that doesn't mean that I'm a Republican. A lot of people think that's what being red-pilled means. It's not what it means. It just means that you understand that the narrative being fed to you by the mainstream media, Hollywood, the political sciences, is a cover for the underlying story, and that they're, you can't really trust them. They're all behaving in a manner in which to influence you to behave in a certain way. And so that's basically what being red-pilled is. Well, Popular Mechanics, they wrote the article and put the TV special on about 9/11, where they basically made several straw man arguments about, now whether or not you believe the official story about 9/11 or whether you believe Loose Change is bullcrap, when you watch that story, there are some questions that Loose Change asked that the Popular Mechanics article and video presentation dismissed in a way that they did not actually attack the arguments that the Loose Change people made. They attacked something else and made it seem as if they were attacking it. And so when I was in my early 20s or mid 20s, whenever this happened, I said, wait a minute. So I think all this 9/11 stuff is bull crap, but that's not what they said. They didn't say that the jet fuel, what they said was the jet fuel can't melt steel beams, right? And they're like, no, it can't melt steel beams. It doesn't have to melt steel beams. But the whole point of it was on the movie Loose Change, they showed molten steel pouring out of the building, and so this was what they attacked. Not that there was actually steel; they ignored that part, and they focused on the idea that jet fuel can't melt steel beams, and they said no, it doesn't have to. And then we saw a famous movie or video about 2010 where they had the blacksmith guy showing you that yes, a steel I-beam will lose structural integrity when it reaches a certain heat melt. And that was still like expanding on that straw man argument. Now, I don't think that nice blacksmith had anything to do with it. I think he was just seeing, look, it does affect it. But regardless, that was why I was turned kind of to questioning the official narratives, because I noticed that they did not debunk the part of the claim that actually mattered. They debunked a different part of it, actually disingenuously. So, at any rate, we've got this story from Popular Mechanics here about the Black Knight satellite, and so I would be skeptical of Popular Mechanics in most situations, and I entered this one with some level of skepticism, skepticality.
Skeptitalness.
That's skeptacular.
Yes, it is.
Skeptacular.
So this is as Popular Mechanics take a good look at the photograph above. NASA captured this image. See, I told you I have a lot of sympathy for Biden, at least on this thing, talking on camera, because I'll say the wrong word. And
I have sympathy for Bush. Biden's not even making sense anymore.
Yeah, well, I don't really have that much sympathy for them, but I do understand being not able to complete one's thought without searching for the word.
This is 98. When was the actual article written? Because I said this picture.
I think this was from about 2000.
So
this is updated 2022.
So I'm not using a newer picture. That looks like something from Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Doing a bunch of like filters over.
Well,
it.
we looked at some of the other. There's a lot of other pictures here, and this is what this is. There have been a lot of pictures taken of it over the years, and some people, still really think that it's a 13,000-year-old satellite.
It's probably just an ancient spacecraft that went floating in our atmosphere and has been going ever for 10,000 years.
Well, that's what some people think.
Vash the Stampede's on there hanging out right now.
That's what some people think, and I think I believe even as the way that I feel about Popular Mechanics, I still think I believe the thing right here in the beginning of it. Of course, now I don't know. We could shoot a couple holes in it too, but they say it is a catalog. It's item number STS-088-72466 in its catalog of space junk floating in low Earth orbit within 1,200 miles. Jerry Ross is an astronaut who took part in that mission. Says the object is a wayward thermal blanket that broke loose while his team tried to attach an American module to a Russian module on the ISS. But for a small devoted following, it's a 13,000-year-old artificially made satellite known as the Black Knight satellite.
It's okay.
You don't think it looks like a blanket?
A thermal blanket. Okay.
Yeah. Now, my first thought on that is, if it's a thermal blanket, how is it holding together in orbit?
Well, I was going to ask, does the word blanket mean it's literally like a blanket, or is that just a term for kind of like a protective coating? Because that would make sense why it looks like a spaceship, but I still don't. I've never heard of what that is.
Well, I mean, if you had like the rocket boosters and stuff have different protective coatings. And it could be something like that. I'm not really giving a whole lot here, but that's what the guy who was there when in the mission says it was. And I guess, you know, we could be skeptical of that, but when you look at it from the different angles, and there's lots, like I said, lots of different angles from it. Let me get out of here. Look at some more.
Star Fox music in my head.
Mhm.
Beep, 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 beep,
Look at
beep.
some more angles here.
God, use Bing.
It's way better than Google. Okay,
Is
here,
it?
yeah.
Fucking gate site.
Yeah, but it works better than Google.
Yeah,
So there's
love
one
Bill,
version
don't
of it.
you?
I love him. I use Skype. So that's
It's
one.
like a spacecraft, nose down, don't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see from that image why people think it was a spacecraft. Let's look at a few more images of it here.
Do-do-do-do.
It does kind of seem like it's holding its shape, doesn't it?
It don't even look the same from that angle though, right there. See, that looks like an SR-71 or something.
I don't know. I could totally see it being a blanket.
Fake plastic
You
submarine.
know, but unless it was like you said, like what we think of as a blanket for a bed, seems like it'd be torn to shreds. But for something that was designed to be to cover part of the spacecraft, as it has rapid temperature changes, that
We'll
seems
make
like.
sure why it was maintained its shape if it's designed to protect something.
Well, that's a neat picture of it.
Is that even the same?
Is it?
You know what I'm saying? They don't even look like the same object.
That's from a WordPress.com site. That may not be. That's somebody's blog. Let's see what
Oh,
this
if I'm a
is.
WordPress site, I trust it more.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know, a lot of the information I found tonight that I'm going to present on this episode is actually from AboveTopSecret.com, and they link to the sources where they got it from. But it was a good place to compile the information. I don't know if y'all remember that site, but it's been around for a long time. Yeah, this is somebody's blog here that looks like they've. This is from. It says February 2018, low Earth orbit from the ISS.
So they took that picture from the ISS.
That's what it says. Let's see. Here's a link. Let's follow this link and see if we can actually get this from the ISS.
Pictures of ISS showing the Black Hawk, not UFO. Keep on saying Black Hawk.
I thought you said something else.
The Black Hawk satellite. That'd be hilarious. It's just one giant cylinder.
Sir, it's a giant Johnson. That looks like a giant wiener. Get your wiener. Let's see. I don't know what that is. Let me refuse all.
We should do a whole show where you just sign up for odd mail-in offers and stuff.
Let's see what else we got here.
You said mail-in. I thought it said.
Well, we could have a show where
mail-in.
we could have a
Mail-in
whole show where we
offers.
get a mail-in order bride.
All
Just
right.
bring her over here and have her as a member of the show.
Well, let's do. Do you know I got an ad for Slavic
very best recovery.
Slavic women that want to be your bride? They want to come to America.
What you been good
And
on?
yeah, that's what I thought was funny. It's probably because I watch like Polinar Tactical and AK Operators Union. And
Yeah, that
they
totally
both,
has something to do with your porn taste.
well, they both have Slavic women. And, yeah, they both have Slavic
And men.
women on the show, and men too. Yeah. But
Swing
no,
those hammers.
it was wanted me to order a mail order bride. You know, the mail order bride business has been up and running in America
Hey,
for
Milo
quite a long
Yiannopoulos
time.
is Slovakian, actually, now that I think about it.
Slovakian.
Oh,
He's
God.
from Slovenia. He would be.
Is that what the name is? That what it is? Or is
Yeah.
it- I'm pretty sure Milo is not from there. I'm pretty sure he's like British or something like that.
You know an awful lot about Milo, don't you? Where's the chat? Oh,
Looked him
where's
up
the
ever since
chat?
I realized that you call him Flaming Hot.
Spills in the tea. Spills the tea's in the chat. Solo is in the chat. What's up, man? Nice to have you back. It says, if anything of this is to be believed, according to Michelangelo and various other recent international sources, it often holds a retrograde orbit, though not exclusively.
What's that
Oh,
mean?
that's
Retrograde?
interesting.
Explain to the dummy.
Well, basically, it's from your perspective. It'll go one way in the sky first, and then it'll come back the other way over, the next period of
Oh,
time.
probably shouldn't do that.
Over a period of days. Well, that's because where your perspective is changing relative to whatever it's orbiting. You may
Are
see
you still a
something go
globe
retrograde.
earther?
Yeah. I guess I am. But so that interesting for it to have a retrograde,
I'm now a part of
Orbit.
Crater Earth.
but not exclusively. So anyway, that's the first debunking of it is from Popular Mechanics. But let's check out a little bit here what the actual...
Didn't Spill bring up the white?
Yeah, we're
Satellite.
going to look at the whatnot here in just a
'cause
little bit.
I've never even heard of that before until she brought it up.
Yeah, I hadn't either. So the Black Knight satellite is supposedly a mysterious satellite of unknown origin discovered in 1960, and it supposedly shadowed Sputnik. It is believed to have been of extraterrestrial origin, according to section 51-UFO.com. And it was discovered, or it signaled back old radio waves from the 1920s and 30s before it disappeared. And also heard a little bit about Tesla finding something that he thought was a satellite, returning a signal to him. And he said in February 1901, in a Collier's article, he recounted his experience. Tesla did. He said he'd received radio signals from space during his 1899 radio experiments in Colorado Springs, and he believed Martians were attempting to communicate with humans through numbers since they're a universal language. And he said the changes he noted were taking place periodically and was such a clear suggestion of number and order that they were not traceable to any cause then known to me. The feeling is constantly growing on me that I had been the first to hear the greeting of one planet to another. Now, a lot of, Black Knight enthusiasts will say that this is proof that the Black Knight is signaling to them, but to me, really could be any kind of signal, and a lot of people point to the pulsars that we've discovered since Tesla that he really didn't know about, that are distant galaxies that send out waves as periodically and in a certain pattern. So people say that may have been what he was picking up. We don't really know, but some people are saying that the Black Knight could have emitted those pulses. Now, according to monitoring agencies around the world, according to this on UFO.com, the Black Knight has been transmitting radio signals for over 50 years now, and the USA and Soviet Union have shown particular interest in this unidentified space object. Now, since its discovery, this satellite has interested countries such as Sweden and enthusiasts worldwide, and there's a guy who is a ham radio operator, and he decoded a series of signals from the UFO satellite, and he said it's a star chart centered on the Epsilon Boot star system, and that the Black Knight originated from this star system 13,000 years ago. Now,
Go get it.
nobody tends to tell us how they figure this 13,000 year number. Have you guys heard that? I've not seen where they get the 13,000.
Does it have something to do with Xenu?
It could be. It could do.
Well, there's a lot of I was about to say that I know the Nation of Islam believes that there's a giant satellite waiting to take up all the black people and kill all the whiteys. I mean, that's Louis Farrakhan. I mean, that's what they actually believe. So maybe they think maybe it is the Black Knight satellite is going to kill all the demon whiteys someday. Maybe the Black Knight satellite and the Nation of Islam are the truth.
Maybe. I was reading some of my new books this weekend, and I came across the English thought in the, I don't remember, maybe it was the 1400s, I can't remember exactly when, but then when they read the Quran, they understood it to mean that the Muslim thought when he died that there would be a giant woman with eyebrows 12 feet long waiting for him in heaven.
Brow fetish.
That was their first thought, that this was just a huge woman that he would be received to when he died.
There's a lot to browse there.
They're all in the giantess.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then now it's like the 72 virgins, I guess, if you die as a martyr. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting, what they now say was a misunderstanding of the text. But it goes to show how so many different things that we see, we just interpret one way or another, and who knows if we're correct or not. We might later find out. And that's one of the reasons that, we have the scientific method, is everything should hold up when we test it. And that's why you don't trust science, right, guys? Because if you
around and find out is how it should be.
yeah. If you have to, if you can't test it and reproduce it, then it's not science. If you have data that contradicts the observations, or observations that contradict the data, obviously you got something wrong.
The government's been telling you to read since you popped out of your mom's womb. You should stop reading. That's how they get to you. If you were illiterate,
Well,
they couldn't control you.
You know, I think that you're on a level. You're right there because there is the
I know,
whole
that's
thing.
what's scary. On level, I'm right. They need you to be smart enough they can control you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they really do use university systems. You know, they pull you as you have a slightly above average to well above average IQ, then they pull you in. And IQ is not the only thing. There's a lot of other parts of your brain that are important other than your straight up intelligence. And they like to use that intelligence to tell you that you're better than everybody else and, you know, instill a sense of confidence in you as you're learning. And it kind of leads to what we have right now with is like the tyranny of the experts, where the experts call all the shots. And even if they're wrong, nobody can tell them because they're not an expert.
Well, you also have a school system. Lefty Tim's coming out. You also have a school system that sets it up to a basis where the IQ is not properly tested. This is actually, the IQ studies are very controversial.
Mm-hmm.
The school is set up to test analytical people. It's not set up to test all forms of IQ.
Right.
You could go to Einstein when he says if you believe that IQ, what was it he said? IQ is based on many different things. If you base a goldfish's ability to climb a tree on IQ, you'll miss out on all kinds of stuff or something like that. But basically saying just because you're not good at numbers or reading or something like that, it's like somebody who can fix a car with no education. That's a form of IQ it's called design stance is what it's called in psychology, and that's a completely different. It's like watching like somebody who has a doctorate and they can't figure out how a tire works when they need to change it, and that should just be the most obvious thing ever. But it's not. Spatial stuff is not the same for everybody, and just as the same as the world of math is not terrible to me, but I do not grasp it instantly.
Nothing shall pass, says Solo. Talking about, I guess he's talking about the counter rotation there, the orbit. Spill says there's supposed to be a white knight satellite. Not sure about what it is. Well, I pulled up what I could find on it, Spill. There wasn't a lot of information out on it, so I hope I can show you something that's interesting to you. I do have.
I like Solo's advice on the better. Don't read and drink. Exactly right. Be a Viking.
Books are the devil, and the liver is evil, and it must be punished.
So what I'm saying is, when I get my cult together, we're going to drink a lot and have a good old-fashioned book burning. Woo!
The IQ must be tested with tequila. Well, I guess if you can hold it together with enough tequila, when you've been under the influence of a lot of tequila, that does show a certain amount of self-control.
Have you
for
seen
sure.
the,
I don't know about the IQ thing really, because have you watched the videos of like the dude, he does like the TikTok stuff where he interviews people, like these younger kids.
They're uneducated. There's a difference.
Yeah.
But still, some of that's just like, I'm pretty sure that
It's generational age regression on a lot of levels. Like, you have a lot of people that have literally just never been tested, so it's really hard to say someone's not smart or has a high IQ or whatever when they've never been shown how to do anything. We've got a lot of very automatic.
One of the questions that none of them can answer: how many moons do we have?
Yeah.
This one guy says like,
two, right?
well, that was the closest answer.
Really?
This one person was saying like 416. It's like you can
I would
there.
point to lack of education.
Well, it looks different every time you see it, Justin. I mean,
Maybe it is.
could be
It's just a
16.
different shape.
Yeah.
You've never known when it comes
Yeah,
across.
it's a
Oh, here
different
comes
thing.
the axe-shaped one. That's a saves the day reference.
Yeah.
well, let's look a little bit more about the Black Knight satellite. Now, in 1957, Dr. Luis Corrales of the Communications Ministry in Venezuela photographed it while taking pictures of Sputnik 2 as it passed over Caracas. The strange thing was that unlike the Sputnik 1 and 2, the Black Knight satellite orbited from east to west. Sputnik 1 and 2 orbited from west to east using Earth's natural rotation to maintain orbit. The story of the Black Knight made its media debut in the 1940s when the St. Louis Dispatch and the San Francisco Examiner wrote about the satellite on the I think he must have meant 1950s on the satellite on May 14th, 1954. Time magazine wrote about it on the 7th of March, 1960. And they say it continued to amaze astronomers worldwide. In the 60s, it was located once again in polar orbit. Now that's when it, instead of going, either with the rotation of the Earth or against the rotation of the Earth, it also goes over north to south over the poles. So that'd be very wild for some kind of object to be able to do that. And that's one of the things that people say that it must be a blanket because there's no evidence of any propulsion. But if this is all true, then it's
How's it changing
how's it
direction?
changing directions? Yeah. And there's really no proof that this is the same object either. I mean,
They do look different in those pictures.
Well-
They don't look the same every time to me.
No, they don't. And those were all modern pictures. And this is radio telescope measurements, visual telescope measurements from the 50s and 60s when they were at a lot lower quality than they are now. And they didn't have, the aid of computers to focus a relay of mirrors or a whole relay of telescopes on one place in the sky and, capture that as it goes by and have computers tracking it like they can now. And they also didn't have the ability to, take high resolution images. I have some from the 70s and the 80s from the Pioneer and from the Discovery. I have like these big photo books of them, and they're pretty fuzzy on these full size images. You can put them onto a screen and they look good for the time, but photography's come a long way as far as not just astral photography, but photography in general. And
Golf is thinking, now that I'm here.
the scintillating lens, folks, go check them out.
Foot fetish only.
Including foot fetish, not foot fetish only. That's not the only kink he
You could
does.
fund your photography career by doing little feetsies and stuff.
Could
Only
do
golf.
You do like peggysfeet.com.
I give him the idea next day you come up, there's a Wix site, only golf. It's like golf's feet. Well, not what I meant, but I was like, you got a high sub count, so I'm not
You're
going
like-
to knock your idea. Then it's like your beard laying across feet for some reason. Only golf, beard and feet.
Where we go? Where did you take us, Tim? We were talking about photography, and they say they found it again in polar orbit in the 1960s, and the astronomers and scientists calculated that the object weighed over 10 tons, and that size would be the heaviest artificial satellite to the planet.
Heavy blanket.
And this also has reports of
Blanket.
Grumman Air Corporation gave much importance to the mysterious satellite on September 3rd, 1960, 7 months after the satellite was detected by radar. A tracking camera at Grumman Aircraft Corporation's Long Island factory took a photograph of the black knight. At that point, people all over the world started identifying the object in the sky, which could be seen as a red light moving at higher speed compared to other satellites in the east-west orbit. And they say the Grumman Aircraft Corporation formed a committee to study the data received from the observations made, but nothing was made public. Now, Gordon Cooper, the astronaut, supposedly reported seeing a green object in his capsule, but all these, are kind of, they're all cataloged as black knight sightings, but they really just didn't have the technical ability to say that they were even the same thing.
I could see with the coloring stuff, especially older lens technology, the chromatic aberrations, which it can, with how the light hits the object, it can make these fringing colors off of it, so
Yeah.
it could possibly be tinted different colors.
But how is it going to make this bat wing looking thing turn into Slave One?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it is a blanket,
Well, never
Yeah.
mind. This could be an upside down picture now that I'm looking at.
yeah, this is from the ISS going down to the Earth. It's looking
ISS
down on the Earth. You can see the ISS pass by you with a backyard
Can you?
telescope. Yeah,
Can you sheeple?
you can.
Here we're going to say Project Bluebeam might be real, and you're going to tell me that thing might not just be a hallucination.
Hey, I guess it could be. It could be a big
hologram.
big hologram like my song Honky Tonk
Honky
Wasteland.
Wasteland.
They're just
Yeah.
projecting it in the sky, or it's a big drone that just flies by.
Yeah, it was funny. I had the idea the other day. I was thinking about ghosts, and we talked about in our episode 63 about ancient aliens versus the ancient apocalypse theory, and I had the thought that what if ghosts were some sort of ancient technology that still would work every now and then, it would make a hologram appear. I was like, wait a minute, I already had that idea. And except it was about the gods, and when you had a hologram on the sky and people, when it stopped working, when everything fell down, and the people who survived or people who came years after whatever this apocalypse was, and they see the hologram still playing on the sky, and they think they're the gods. And I was like, maybe what if high technology from the past, what if you found a computer screen or a cell phone and you could play a TikTok video and that was the gods of tomorrow?
That would be a
Jesus
problem
Christ.
if every haunted house just had girls shaking their ass in it.
Yeah.
Be like, I hope I see a ghost today. Like, people really want to go to haunted houses. Oh yeah, I saw a team of cheerleaders in my room last night dancing.
Or it could be one of these what do you call it? The blue-haired activists.
Oh, all the TikTok ones that are left are just angry people. And that's why ghosts seem spooked.
Yeah, so maybe that's what they think of as ghosts. But anyway, back to the Black Knight satellite. We got a lot of interesting information there. Let's see. Go back to the Popular Mechanics and see a little bit more what they say, and because they go a little bit deeper in it, they talk about in 1927 when radio pulses propagated even further, or the theory about radio pulses propagated even further, because this guy Jorgen Hals, a civil engineer and ham radio operator, stumbled upon an unusual quality to his radio signals, and he would send his signals back to Oslo, and they would return to him moments later, and his signals would bounce back at him. He wasn't sure why, and the people say, "Oh, that's the Black Knight sending them back at him." Again, not that it's impossible, but it's kind of a big leap to make there that must be the Black Knight doing it.
How hard would it be just to go get it?
I mean, imagine if NASA wanted to, or Space, Starlink, or Space Force, or SpaceX wanted to. I'm sure somebody could go
I know
get
at one point in time they were talking about, I'm wanting to say it was one of the more daring countries like Russia or China wanted to go up there and with a big net essentially and start roping down space junk because they, it's like recycling. There's like millions of dollars up in the air that they could recycle. And then the idea kind of fell apart because the
copper.
Yeah, well, that and the idea Musk wants to do it too, because he wants to go up there and actually mine an asteroid because he said there's infinite minerals in them.
Well, they just discovered recently a new mineral that they've never seen in the solar system before.
Bubbles ours.
No, it was in a meteorite, and it's for sale in China right now.
I saw something. I didn't read it, but I saw something of that.
I think they found like 4 new minerals
They should stop
are
messing around
new
with
elements.
So they find a venom or something up there about come down there and
who
mess
knows?
with us.
Remember that movie, the Andromeda strain?
Yeah. I like that.
Well, one of my issues with what they were doing is not really my issue, but the issue with it was how do you get something that's flying like 20,000 miles an hour, and how do you slow it down and then bring it into Earth's atmosphere, because you don't want to burn it up on the way in.
Well, you'd have to match its orbit and capture it, and then put it in a landing craft of some sort. But they could do it if they want to do. But that kind of lends the fact that they don't, or the fact that they don't do anything with it.
You gotta hog tie it.
And not be greased.
You remember
You
that?
can be greased.
Get up there and hog tie that Black Knight.
What was that game? It was a sci-fi RPG, Xenosaga, and it had this giant like cross that floated out in the space, and it had just been there for a really long time, and it kind of was like a giant Black Knight, and the people, this was in a futuristic society, but these scientists and stuff, they'd perfected interstellar travel, all kinds of other stuff, but they still didn't understand what this great big thing was. So like they studied it, but they pretty much kind of kept their distance from it. And when they started fucking with it was when everything went all to hell. But the point I was making is that's the idea. What if they have such a reverence for it and a lack of understanding for what it actually is, that they don't want to try to collect it, or they don't want to study it too closely, or maybe they have attempted to study it and something's gone badly wrong, and they're like, we're just leaving it.
It could be like one of the monolith things. Hopefully it's not like the monolith like they found in Dead Space.
Oh, I've not played Dead Space, so
Yeah, that's...
Is it sort of like a Doom situation? But, or what would better reference would be Event Horizon.
Event Horizon was when they went into the black hole, wasn't it?
Well, that was the ship, the Event Horizon.
Yeah.
They were doing like faster than light travel using a wormhole to punch a hole through the space time to travel,
okay.
and they punched into a hell dimension.
Hell. Yeah, that was pretty much what happened in Doom too. Except
Only Doom guy wasn't there to kick ass.
Yeah, actually, if you're into PC gaming, you can get Doom, the whole Doom retro pack, including Doom 64, the upgraded version.
I got it all on my Xbox.
Yeah, you can get them all, and then the Doom 3 that has.
I don't like Doom 3 that much.
Well, but the point is, you can get them all for $12, and on Steam right now.
I forget which version it was. They've gone through in like the modding community, and they've redone the original Doom so well. You have like a full head that looks like the helmet,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's still the original Doom, but it's just like it's done so well. All the sound packs they've added to it, and it looks, and they actually have it updated to upscale into the HD.
I played it on one. I have it's just a Doomsday launcher. It's an older one, but it has the upgraded graphics and it has the guitars where it's like instead of computer sounds, it has guitars doing the music, and it sounds pretty cool. But you just take the original program and run it through it, and it has all the mods on it automatically installed. So it's pretty sweet. A lot of cool things you can do with that. But I found right here, y'all. I was talking earlier about there don't seem to be a lot of mentions of where the 13,000 years comes from, and so where it actually is from an author, Duncan Lunan, and he was trying to make sense of the Swedes or the what's his name,
Jorgen.
Jorgen House. Yeah, that's it.
Fake name if I ever heard it. CIA trash.
So Duncan Lunan was trying to make sense of his radio echoes, coming right back at him, and he came up with the idea that there could be a 13,000-year-old object orbiting the moon that could have led to the long delays, because something to do with the 13,000 figure having to do with the position of the North Star Polaris. He said he tried plotting the delay times against the order in which the echoes were received, and only the second attempt I found what looked like a star map. But he says that in 1998, he says, we now recognize those as long delayed echoes, and you can hear about 2.7 seconds or more after radio transmission. And so he has distanced himself from the Black Knight theory, said we found more evidence that this is a phenomenon from transmitting radio signals, not from some device sending them back to us every 13,000 years. But anyway, the guy who came up with 13,000 years, he doesn't believe that that's the case anymore, or at least he said publicly that he doesn't believe that's the case anymore.
So, of course, as more and more people that are in this field that are probably smarter than me keep saying that this is not a spaceship, I should double down and keep saying that this is a spaceship and not just space junk.
Yes.
Because if it was just space junk, that would be why no one's pulling it out of low Earth orbit. So it has to be a Doom ship.
Could be.
Or maybe if they've tried it, if it is a ship, it still has some sort of like defense mechanism, and it's just gotten old and like space barnacles.
Like zap you if you come too close to it. Or maybe it's kind of like on District 9. They're waiting for all the aliens to starve before they go eat all their arms for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to eat that arm!
Well, I was trying to find a picture that they had, but it's not linking. It's linking to a story about Elon Musk. But
Sounds like the gods are
1960.
talking to you.
Let's see if we can find it here. If it'll have the actual picture. It does have the text from the article. This is from Time Magazine, 1960. 3 weeks ago, headlines announced that the U.S. had detected a mysterious dark satellite wheeling overhead on a regular orbit. There was nervous speculation that it might be a surveillance satellite launched by the Russians, and that it was uneasy that the U.S. didn't know what's over its head. But then, last week, the Department of Defense proudly announced that the satellite had been identified. It was a space derelict, the remains of an Air Force Discoverer satellite that had gone astray. So, we've got a couple different stories for it there, don't we?
It was what now? A Air Force
Discoverer satellite that had gone astray, the remains of it.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be the first. Now, do you think they just said that? Because when was Sputnik? 1959?
I don't know.
61? It was right around, I think it was 59. No, 58. Not Sputnik News. What do you think I am, a Russian agent?
I'm starting to think with you and your fetish for Slovakian feet.
1957. Okay. So, 57 Sputnik launches. And I guess it's possible, because if you buy the story that when, we saw the Sputnik, we didn't know it was coming. We rushed to figure out a way to get satellites into space. You ever remember the book October Sky? They made a movie too. Yeah, it took place in 58. That's what it was. That's what I was thinking of. But so back in 1960, they say it was going to be demonstrating the effectiveness of the U.S.'s new watch on space. and there was a 3-week lag time in identification. It was proof that the system still lacks the coordination, that some bugs still had to be ironed out. So people were spotting it back in 1960s, and they were reporting on it in Time magazine. So this is not just conspiracy theorists finding, random things and link them together when they don't go together. There are some legitimate stories of some weird stuff out there being reported in mainstream media, such as Time magazine. And they said that they had a program called Dark Fence, and it was a kind of radar tripwire stretching across. Grumman specializes in analyzing visible wavelengths, yes. And the ghost of the hottie that was. That's right, Spill, or Solo, thank you. But the Dark Fence was kind of a radar tripwire going across basically the U.S., and it was kind of like, if you imagine a laser wire, but with sound waves. And if something come across there, it would trip it off, and that was how they found this thing. And with this one, they could search whole areas instead of having to know exactly where to look for a particular satellite. So evidently they had an error with knowing where their actual satellite was, and picked up their satellite in the Dark Fence, is what they're saying. And took a little while for Dark Fence to get with the makers of the Discoverer satellite and figure out what was going on, and that's why it was reported that way. But a likely story. All right, let's try out our new intermission video that Tim did for us, and then we're gonna get back. We're gonna talk about the White Knight, and we're gonna talk about the monoliths on Mars and Phobos, and the Mars space face. And like we were talking about photography earlier, that's going to come back up again in the Mars space face discussion, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So stay tuned while we try our intermission here, kind of give us a little break to stretch our legs and refill our glasses before we go on to the next part of the show.
Which means you got about 1 minute and 30 seconds.
All right, that'll give me time to grab me a nitro
watch
coffee.
The video if you're just watching the video, though. It's very inspirational. I tried to be almost like a church service and get you pumped up for Monday.
All right. Well, let's see if we can get it to work. Hopefully it'll work.
Oh my God, coming to the checkered flag. I can't believe what I just saw.
Did you ever think to yourself, why doesn't the driver just put the car up against the wall and floor it?
Riding the wall. Oh my God, coming to the checkered flag. I can't believe what I just saw.
Into the championship.
Let's go get us the championship.
And the fight for the points right at the line. Take a look at what he did.
I have never seen anything like that before in my life.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Next time you see something that has not been done, do not assume it has not been done, because it cannot be done. Be more like Ross Chastain. Be more like the driver who says, maybe I can put my car against the wall and finish.
Oh my God, coming to the checkered flag. I can't believe what I just saw.
There we go, and we are back. Thanks for sticking around. I did not know what was the subject of that intermission. Very Tim-like and very appropriate for Tim.
I got that off of thread. Actually, I didn't make it. I thought it was funny. It's Ross Chastain. You didn't watch the video, so I'll just tell you. Ross Chastain was a guy a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, probably in NASCAR. Did exactly what I've been thinking the whole time I was ever watched NASCAR is Imagine how fast you'd go if you just put the passenger side door up against the wall and just floored it.
Yeah.
And he, at the very last lap of Martinsville, he decided to do that because it's a short track anyway, and he set a track record. Now the NASCAR officials are like, oh shit, do we have to make a rule against wall riding now? Because
Well, I think he said he tried it in video games growing up, and he always wanted to see if it would work.
And he did. He set a track record and went from like 10th to 5th place.
I didn't know that he set a track record. Wow. How
Well,
about
it was
that?
like points or something. He needed the points, and he realized that if he did, he set a track record. So it's pretty
Well, that's
funny.
freaking cool. I was drinking this
So pumped. Thank you, Spill. I'm glad you're pumped for Sunday.
this Guinness Nitro cold brewed coffee. It pretty much just tastes like regular Guinness. So
Okay.
It can't taste much different.
Coffee that'll get you drank.
And then, well, it's only 4% alcohol, so you'd have to drink a lot of it. But
Man, they're making beer like really, really high alcohol. I was in a tap house the other day that had a 10% beer.
yeah,
And it's like...
that's approaching wine level.
Yeah, yeah.
I do like, if I'm going to drink one of those IPAs, though, I like those to be nice and strong. But as far as something like this, yeah, 4% is fine on something like this. Of course, I'm not really trying to get too drunk more as much as I am,
Well, if you're
enjoy the
mixing-
taste of a beer.
For like taste, but I would enjoy to get a little happy as I go, maybe. But like,
Yeah.
if I'm just going to get drunk, I just, heck far, take a shot and you're
Yeah,
done. You don't
give me
have
the
to
moonshine.
sit there and bear and grin through some muddy water that you don't appreciate.
All right. Well, hey, let's get back into the subject at hand. We're going to start off our White Knight. So we'll leave you guys to decide. We've kind of given you a run through the information on the Black Knight. There's more available. People have come up with a lot of other stuff, but those are kind of the main talking points for either side.
It's like I thought we were, you said White Knights. I thought we were talking about space satellites, not Sims.
Yeah.
No, I had a conversation about somebody, or with somebody about white knighting before I really knew what white knighting was, and I just saw the kind of behavior coming out, like these men pretending to be feminists, and you could tell that it was not genuine, that they were simply trying to
Get in.
get an in and get their guard down. And my the woman that I was talking to about this, she's saying basically, well, why is that a bad thing? And I couldn't really quite articulate.
Because it's not genuine. It comes from a position of...
Deception.
It is deception because he doesn't really... He's overly hyped for something you care about because he's too big of a vagina to tell you he just wants to sleep with you.
Well, and to part of it had to do also with using another man to set up that situation where and she's
You got a
saying
problem with Wingman?
yeah, well, no, she's saying basically, well, the man should just behave appropriately in the first place, and if he's not going to, then that's not his fault that if this guy steps in to do it. And it's like, yeah, but
It doesn't mean you got to choose either one of them, though.
yeah, I agree.
I think, maybe I would hope all women should know better to look out for scummy behavior like that. But I mean, I don't know. People are pretty gullible, and if a guy seems like he's well-minding, you probably spend more time with him than you should. But that comes from both sides.
Yeah.
Hold on,
Well-
my lady. Let me save you. That kind of thing.
Well, let's check out the White Knight satellite. This is from the Mirror in the
It
UK.
says, hold on, my lady, and it has the neckbeard guy.
Yeah.
Is he wearing a
Lady.
fedora? Well, here we got the White Knight. Now, this is
Pill capsule.
footage from a NASA launch, and people were seeing this and saying that is the White Knight.
That?
And I'm circling it with the mouse as if there's not a big red circle around it right there. But some people say that it's an extraterrestrial craft that has secretly been orbiting the Earth for thousands of years. Now, that was a NASA shuttle launch that took place in 2011. Now, let's see if we can find the video here. Or if it'll... I don't think this is what I want. Nope. Video unavailable. How about that, huh?
Look at that big bullet.
Yeah.
Why don't they just do rockets like bullets and just shoot them?
Because of the kind of energy that goes into... Okay.
I mean, if you really want to explain it to me, I would like to know. But I do think there could be a system where they would ploop it into the sky a little bit easier than just lighting a giant rocket on something's ass and keeping it going until it gets up there.
Well,
Doesn't that seem like a little primitive at this point that we're just literally blowing?
I mean,
shit up?
it kind of does.
Well, it's due to probably, you could look into like probably technology suppression. Same if you did the Cardicev system, since we're still 6-3 society when we should be. I'd say we should be at a 1 by now.
I'm just saying that if a guy who has a dream and doesn't really have a strong desire to live is willing to strap 42 weather balloons to a lawn chair and float high into the sky and fly over a mountain range. I'm guessing that the government with infinite funds could probably get to space without using enough rocket fumes to fuel, I don't know, insert cliche. I mean, it's just so much fuel that they had to burn to get 2 people up there.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, here's dude just ups himself over a mountain range using weather balloons.
Well,
Landed himself by BB and gun shooting them down.
It's funny that you mention that. So when we talk about Apollo here in just a minute, remind me about
The
that.
guy in the weather balloons?
About the energy thing.
Okay.
So I want to show you that purports to show. Yeah.
Holy grail.
It only has 1,000 views on this video, but I do want to show this.
100% real. This sounds like a wish list.
Gaspy face. UFO emoji.
Well, the footage is interesting. I'm not sure what this is, but this is what some people are saying is the White Knight satellite. I'll show you this video real quick. This is from a video of a U.S. Navy carrier on a news report, and they accidentally, this person says, shared something that they didn't mean to. Oh, hang on a sec. So if you can see this white craft right here, this is what they're looking at. We're going to get a little bit better view of it here in a second. I want to make sure that the people can hear this annoying.
Are they saying that's whatnot? Is that what they're saying?
That's what these people are saying, yeah. And let's watch a video real quick with the sound. Hopefully y'all can hear this. And that slow motion is in the video. You can see it back here.
Oh, that's it. Looks like the ship off Flight of the Navigator. It is a similar.
There's definitely something strange back there, isn't it? I mean, that is a different looking craft.
Doesn't look like anything normally kept on an aircraft.
Yeah. So whatever it is, I don't know, but it's definitely interesting. And let's go to our friends over here at Above Top Secret and see what they're saying about it.
Friends.
Yes. So here's the picture that people said was the White Knight, and this is totally different looking from what we just saw.
If you're a photographer, explain this to me.
Wild Bluff Screamer, he's pumped up for the beer. He's wooing. Oh, and that makes me want to have another drink. But you guys,
My pronouns are prosecute Fauci. What?
oh, that's
That
it.
should be your next video title. That's so stupid.
Elon Musk said that on Twitter today. So
My pronouns are prosecute and Fauci.
Twitter Files Part 5 covers COVID and Fauci. That ought to be interesting. So we might get into that a little Wednesday because we've got a couple of iterations of Twitter Files to go over, and the mainstream media has covered it zero on network news. So I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people are saying, why did they drop this on the weekend? I think it's really so, network news is not going to touch it anyway. That way you give your people in the independent media who do shows throughout the week, give them a chance to collect the information and spread it out. Because that's one of the main ways people are spreading information now is, there's larger independent news sources, but, a lot of people do shows like this that get 100, 1,000 views, and a lot of this stuff gets propagated that way. So I think that's one of the main reasons that they're dropping those on the weekend like they have been. But that's just my thoughts on it. But we might get into that Wednesday. Let's go back into the White Knight. From AboveTopSecret.com, this says this shimmery white spectacle can be seen in the clouds alongside the fuel tank discarded from the Space Shuttle Endeavour after it blasts off for its final mission of May 2011.
It doesn't look like it's in one piece. It looks like there's holes in it or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does definitely looks funny. But let's see what it is. What NASA says about. Oh man, it's unavailable. This one was not unavailable earlier. I watched this video earlier.
Well, YouTube knew you was going to expose the YouTube satellite. They're like,
But they say this was back from 2017. Above Top Secret is not buying it, the forum in general. They're saying, then other people are saying that, please show me where there's a picture of the fuel tank to me. And they don't really find a whole lot about it. There's not much other than here's pictures of a solid rocket booster, and they're saying it may be a piece of that falling apart, but that's not really what it looks like to me.
It's possible. Look,
I mean,
I see that space junk falling off of it.
Yeah.
It came off in chunks.
it's possible.
You know.
And then if we keep going, here's a video of a booster being released. Let's skip ahead a little bit to this, where it actually releases. There we go. All right, that's it coming down.
Coming down,
Booster
yeah.
releasing, coming down.
Why'd it fall straight down like that?
Parachute.
That's the
Oh,
that's the booster firing
That
right
makes
there,
sense.
slowing them down.
You know,
and there goes
without
the booster
parachute,
falling
that would be
off.
Suspicious as hell. We've all seen a GoPro fall from Earth's orbit at this point.
Yeah. The separation from the rocket system is very clean, and in that video there, and there's also the theory that it's the Black Knight satellite, that the Black Knight is the White Knight, and this guy says that prior.
Really that black and white?
Dustin, you couldn't resist, could you? Whatever it is, there's not a lot of information about it, and who knows? It could have been the Black Knight and White Knight could have both been there all together, because there's so much information that they're attributing to the Black Knight, and then they see this one, they're saying it's white. It could just be the same thing. It could be that there are multiple mysterious objects encircling the planet, and it could just be that there's space junk. I'm not here to give you a definitive answer, but I'm here to tell you there are a lot of possibilities, and if you're that interested, you probably have to look it up and come up with your own theory, because there are people who've been studying it for decades and still haven't come to a definite conclusion. But it is a very interesting conversation. And here we got this here talks about when the cryogenic propellant lines from the tank of the orbiter pop loose, ice forms around the rims, breaks loose, and sometimes pass through the cameras, filming the departing tank. So you could have pieces of ice, from, just like if you have a propane tank and you're letting off.
You're almost being like a big random chunk of ice.
So let's go back and look at that again. To me, it looks a lot more like a big random chunk of ice than a satellite.
Yeah, that just doesn't
Or a
look like
booster.
spaceship to me. It just looks like pieces of something,
Yeah.
It's too not symmetrical.
Like you see right in here where it looks like it's not even solid.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. I could definitely see that being a piece of ice. That's more what I'm leaning to.
Space smeg.
But I do want to show you, there's something, let's see, where'd it go now? It's actually called the White Knight, and it is a launching ship. Where'd it go now? Here it is. This is from Scaled Composites Aircraft Company, the White Knight. Its first flight was in August 2002. And this is a weird looking craft. It doesn't look like anything on that picture, does it? But what this thing does is it launches other things from a 45,000
okay. So it launches
40,000
like,
feet.
What, gliders?
Yeah, it launches it's a manned suborbital spacecraft, and it goes 49,000 feet, and it's called the White Knight Mothership. And they deploy, it has a rocket propulsion system, and it stays just inside the Earth's atmosphere and allows it to launch other stuff from it. And it's a for-hire payload platform, so they can basically take a rocket on it, launch it at 45,000, and it'll use a lot less propulsion from that point in orbit than coming straight off the ground. So basically they shoot it most of the way up there in this thing and then launch off of it, so you can hit into near Earth orbit faster. And
If I could find a way to do that with something bigger,
oh yeah,
I guess it'd be too heavy to launch it from that high up. Because if
More
they need
pictures
that
of it.
big ass of a rocket to get even that high, they need double the amount, so. just seems like there'd be a better way is all.
Yeah.
There probably are.
Well, we'll get into that in just a minute. Gosh, you're teasing the hell out of it. And just like you were teasing earlier with the 69 talk, and I want to get into this is from December 10th, yesterday, from 2022. Hidden messages pay tribute inside NASA's Artemis Orion spacecraft. The Artemis mission is to give engineers opportunity to test the Orion spacecraft. Artemis 1 is the name of the mission. And they are looking to fly astronauts to the moon, right? They're looking to return to the moon. And Biden has, I'm not sure how famously said, because I don't know how many people watch the news, but said we're going to put a woman and a black guy on the moon. That was his priority. We're going to go to the moon, and this time there's going to be a woman.
Did he say that, please?
I don't know if he said
We got to get a woman and a black guy.
We got to get a black guy up there, man. What are you, racist? No, but no. Apparently, he did say he wants to have a woman and minorities on the new manned space flight to the moon. Well, the Artemis mission is testing the Orion spacecraft in order to get ready for that return to the moon. And I found some interesting things. I looked up a little bit about some of the symbolism here, but I want to show you some of this that they show you. Some Easter eggs in the spacecraft, and there's a cardinal hidden on here, which is a tribute to one of the engineers who was a big Cardinals fan, they say.
Cardinal,
yeah, I don't think so either.
like an iron eagle with
Yeah, doesn't it look like something that
Doesn't look like Cardinal.
And look where this came from. The Mark, he said he's a Cardinals fan, Mark Geyer, who died in 2021. So yeah, you'd think that if that was the case, they would put up a Cardinal. Now,
like if there's an iron cross there, and it was like, well, he's a Christian. He likes crosses.
Yeah. Now you remember last week we talked about just my episode where we talked about how the Nazis were involved in the forming of NASA and the Goddard Space Center, and a lot of rocketry and weaponry and military developed by Project Paperclip scientists and engineers who came over at the end of the Second World War. So maybe that's a Cardinal. Doesn't look like a Cardinal to me. Not here to cast aspersions on any of the fine folks at NASA today. But let's keep going down here a little bit. We've got these. This is a Morse code symbol for Charlie, commemorating the life of former Orion Deputy Program Manager Charlie Lundquist, who died in 2020. So we've got this for him on there. I really don't know what that means, but you know, they say it's for Charlie.
Ashes, it's
They say it's Morse code for Charlie. Yeah.
It's all the boops and.
Well, I don't.
Beeps, ploops, and plops.
Been a long time since I've done any of that.
Morse code.
Thank you.
Just boops and beeps.
That would have really flubbed up my whole interpretation of the language.
And these are country codes that are put up here.
The numbers.
Yep.
What does that mean? Country codes.
The codes of the countries that are involved, and that's kind of the point where we're just like the dystopias. They don't call our nations countries anymore. They don't have them by name. They have district number whatever. Binary code for number 18 is also located on top of the pilot seat to the right of the NASA worm logo. This is to honor NASA's history of travel to the moon with the Apollo program and to celebrate a human spacecraft return to moon after Apollo 17 for the Artemis generation. Now, it's pretty interesting. Artemis is the Greek or the Roman version of Diana. Diana being a moon goddess and being the twin of Apollo. Now, Apollo was the sun god, among other things, and Diana was the moon goddess. And they were born of twins, and both stories in the Greek, they were Zeus bastard's kids with a lady named Leto, and it was very similar in the Roman version where they were Jupiter's bastard kids. So Jupiter in the story, okay, I thought it was pretty interesting because Apollo was. He had a tendency for have bad relationships, but he burned away. He came back and took out his enemies and slayed them with his golden rays, and it was a symbolism of the sun basically killing bacteria by drying out the swamps and things like this. Where all these different
about bacteria.
They knew that when the swamps were dry, people didn't get sick because the sun dried them out, and there wasn't as much stuff growing in it, and people
What if it was a little more literal, and they're like the solar flares and stuff like that. Because those have been happening. They can calculate when those things
Well, Apollo
happen.
is the solar flare god.
Yeah, well, that could be, and well, I mean, Jupiter actually. One of the stories is Apollo actually tricks Artemis or Diana into killing her lover. But Diana has a lover, Artemis has a lover, which is Orion, and Orion, he's the spacecraft. Remember here. Diana also, she's mentioned as having a moon car that she flies around in, right? And she's an archer, and she's a goddess of the hunt, and she's also a goddess of like childbirth and childcare. And Apollo is kind of he's kind of her counterpart. He's the god of medicine, and he's the god of basically he's the sun and she's the moon. I mean, you take the two and put them together. And we got Artemis's arrow. She accidentally kills Orion because Apollo is jealous of Orion, and he tricks her into saying, in one version of the story, he has Diana say that he says that our enemies are coming and invading us, and you must fire your weapon at this dot over here because that's our enemies coming. And she shoots, and it's actually Artemis, or it's actually Orion, whom Apollo has sent a giant scorpion to fight, and he's running from it, and Artemis shoots him, or Diana shoots him. And then the other version, in the Roman version, Artemis, he basically challenges her skill with the bow and has her shoot something, and it turns out that it's Orion, and she kills him, and she puts him up in the sky. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is Apollo, he also had a similar situation where he caught his wife cheating on him, and when he did, he went and murdered her, and he tried to bring her back to life, but he was the god of physicians, and he was unable to do so. He didn't have the skill to bring her back to life. He regretted it after he did. Well,
Didn't have that necromancers.
that's right. Well, his son, with his lover, Corindia, I think was her name. I can't remember the son's name, but his son turned out he studied medicine and grew up to be a better physician than Apollo, and he was actually able to bring a couple people back to life. And then Jupiter threw bolts of lightning, it says, at him and killed him. But then it also says that rather than take, Jupiter is the king of the gods. He's Zeus, basically, of the Roman pantheon of gods. So it says that he went to attack the Cyclopses that had manufactured or authored the lightning bolts that Jupiter threw at him. And for this, he was stricken blind. And part of Orion, which, and it actually confined him to Earth. Zeus, I'm sorry, this was Orion. He was stricken blind, and he went to, I've told you two different myths here, I'm sorry. So Orion, he actually was, he was chasing a woman, and he was meant to be married with her, and he couldn't get her, so he had to prove that he was worthy, and rather than wait that long, he tried to abduct her, and he was stricken blind by her father. Yeah, he was stricken blind by her father, and then he went to the Cyclops to learn to capture the power of the sun, and the Cyclops, who had one eye, could see better than he with 0 eyes, and somehow he was able to reflect the power of the sun back. So I think that may be why that Orion had to do with the spacecraft mission in this case, but it was also because Artemis supposedly rode him into the sky whenever he died. She put his constellation up in there and then flew over in her moon car. Now the story for Orion, why NASA said that they originally or the story for Apollo, why NASA said they originally named the Apollo missions after him, is because they like to imagine him flying across in his chariot of fire across the sky. But I think it may have to do with this. He was grounded to the earth after he attacked the Cyclopses in vengeance against Jupiter. So he was stuck to earth for a time and confined. And so if the Apollo missions did not actually happen the way we were told, they were actually stuck within the Van Allen radiation belts, that may have been why they actually called it the Apollo missions, rather than because he flew by in his chariot of fire, but because he was actually confined to the Earth for a time. Well, then we all had all male astronauts that went into Earth orbit, and now we are looking at Artemis coming up, and this time we may actually go, or we may just do a mirror or a twin of the Apollo mission again and pretend it all. What do you think? Sorry about the confusion on the mythology. It's I was trying to tell two different stories together, and I mixed them up.
I did read on the Google there when you were telling your story that they've already announced an all African American, but male. They said it's all male on this one. A male crew, an all black male crew that Biden's launching into outer space. It's called Project Super Predator. He named it himself.
There is an all-female space mission, though. I just saw a story about that the other day.
What did he name that one? Come on, man.
And it said that they want to have a all-female mission to Mars. This is from NASA.gov because
they want to kill them?
No, they say they don't want them to have sex. So they're going to have all females.
Okay, I don't know if they know about the prison effect. It's pretty similar for women that go into prison.
Yeah, when I saw this,
going to send a bunch of bi-curious women into outer space.
when I saw this posted, when somebody said who wants to tell them about the prison experience.
There's a good chance that if Neil Armstrong and those guys had gotten lost in space, they would have had one last boink before they died. I mean, just saying.
Life will find a way.
Well, in this case, I found a way to go out with a bang.
But yeah, that's what they're talking about.
I
And
put my finger on it. What would happen?
I mean, like, really though, an all-female mission to Mars, so they can't have sex. Like, why would you want to do that? Like,
they don't want anybody to get pregnant on the way.
sterilize them. Pretty easy. You're going to take away one of the only things. Like, you drive them all crazy. Like, send half and half. That way they all have somebody to bang. That way they have some kind of a simple life pleasures. They don't go crazy as they go to Mars to die.
They probably want to send men after, though, you would think, wouldn't you? Like, eventually they'd want to.
Seems like you just
Have
have a
them
bunch of...
promulgate the species.
Well, that's a totally different subject altogether. But, like, the first... Because you're not coming back.
No.
You could just, well, at that point, you don't even have to send men. You could just send a rocket ship with test tubes full of sperm to them and turkey basters. Here you guys go. Make yourself some help. Train them well to do all the jobs.
Well, I saw a story the other day.
Shit with frozen turkey basters. That's NASA technology.
Well, there's a story here the other day.
Yeti cooler.
Yeah, they spent all the money on the Yeti coolers, so they couldn't go for the DNA bank. They just got all the other astronauts to oink into a turkey baster.
And then froze it before the sperm does.
See if I can find you a video that I just saw.
From Gravitas.
No.
From who then? Because I don't know if I believe what you're about to pull up.
It was.
Well, I'm feeling pretty
It was a. And they've already got the world's first artificial womb for humans back in 2019, but I saw a video and
test tube situation, or is it something I don't know?
No, it's like well, there's this.
Artificial.
This is they grew a lamb fetus.
Plastic bag?
Yeah, it's basically a plastic bag that.
More microplastics than they're doing.
Yeah, that works like a. That
Well,
works like a womb. It has all the inputs and outputs.
Did you see the study where the I want to say it was a college students or something like that. They had successfully grown a bunch of chicken embryos in an ice cube and they just put it's like an ice cube tray and they just put plastic wrap over top of it and
if you don't think there's some symbolic significance to using a lamb for that when they're unveiling it, then you're crazy. But
well, the lamb was the first thing they cloned too.
Yep, and there's a reason for that. Dolly the sheep. But they say the Raelians have been cloning people since the
what?
The Raelian cult.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a UFO cult.
Okay.
There's a guy he calls himself Rael.
I didn't know if that was like new hip internet slang for Israel or what.
No,
the Rails, Israel.
And actually, the symbol that Ye was banned from Twitter for posting was actually the Raelian symbol, which is a combination of the Star of David or the Seal of Solomon with the swastika. And that the Raelians have been using that for a long time, but they say they cloned somebody back in the 1990s, and they cloned Dolly the sheep, who unfortunately had a short life full of terrible pain because she was covered in tumors and stuff. That they quietly.
Probably left that part out where he cloned someone to live in hell, essentially.
Yeah, basically. And so there's,
What if you can't do it? What if cloning doesn't really work that well? What if every time they clone them, it comes out like generation loss we were talking about earlier? What if you try to do the exact same thing again, if it comes out lesser?
Yeah.
Turns out like the poor baboon and the fly.
Yeah.
Have a homunculi on a Full Metal Alchemist where you can do it, but it comes out basically just a pall of battling meat flesh.
Well, look, we could go on and on, but let's move on to the next thing. So, my take on the White Knight is
porn. It's Smurfs. What if Smurfs are just homunculi?
My take on the White Knight, it is either somebody spotting the same thing that the Black Knight is, or there's a whole array of objects out there.
Color changing paint from the urban things of the Black Knight.
Yep. Who knows? Could be. But I thought it was very interesting though that they used the Apollo's twins for the mission, and they're now talking about make sure we want to have the first woman to go to the moon.
And you think they're going to call it the female version now, or are they calling?
Well, they already are.
Okay,
They're calling it Artemis, yeah. And I think one of the reasons that they used Orion is because, like I said, he was blinded and he regained his sight by capturing the sun and reflecting it out of his eyes. That was how he. So basically, like the moon does. Diana or Artemis is the moon goddess, and she flies in her moon car and puts Orion in the sky. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I also thought it was pretty interesting that Apollo was bound to the Earth for a period of time after attacking the Cyclopses, and Jupiter then punished him and banished him from his position in the sky and bound him to the Earth. So there for a time, Apollo was bound to the Earth. Like many people say that the moon landings didn't happen.
But they didn't go beyond the.
They didn't go along low Earth orbit. Yeah, and there's a lot of evidence that at least the first flights in the Apollo systems did not actually do that. There's I don't think it's proved definitively, but it's definitely proved that they made some fake images, and why would they make fake images if they weren't lying about what they really did?
So is NASA a cult? This is just an open-ended question. It's just the idea of it's NASA. You're a government body. You could choose to name your stuff anything you wanted to. I mean, you've already got the countries and stuff down to like numbers. Why do they choose very specifically these? They're always choosing these same collection of gods. They could choose anything. There's not enough Indian people working now that there couldn't be a project, whatever, insert.
Well, I think
I don't know, what I'm saying? Like, why they keep choosing the same gods if they don't worship them is my question, I guess.
Well, I don't know if they worship them or if they are, like we talked about in the Ancient Aliens versus Ancient Apocalypse theory, what if they are, just important allegories and that's why they use them? What if...
But it's always the same one. Like, for example, the missing eye. Odin would be a much better representation of the missing eye, but they always stick with the Roman. Or is it Greek?
They both the same.
Okay. Well, but the Greek...
They usually use the Roman names, but
Okay.
the Greek and Roman gods are almost identical. I mean, you got Zeus and Jupiter, you got Artemis and Diana, you got Apollo and Apollo, you got
I guess I was
Neptune and
mostly
Poseidon.
trying to link it for the sake of which ancient civilization were they hearkening back to. But this right here, if they're using the Romans ones, if I want to take my crazy pills, I would say that they're just a continuation of the Roman Empire then.
Yeah, and I also think that the Vishnu and Shiva and Ifrit, those could all be different versions. They could just be what the Indians call them. They could be the same thing.
In a way, yeah, because I guess it's like Hindu. It's not really. I don't know. I think all those essentially boil down. I think at some point we started taking things a little bit more literal because the Indians don't take it as literal. Some do, but
yeah, and modern, a lot of us don't really, and especially we say that that these were allegories, like I said earlier about the tale of Apollo, being the sun god and healing things. That was just an allegory for him, the sun coming out and killing the pond scum, or Diana being, she has a story where she goes and kills like all the snakes and stuff like that, but it's because she's it's her part of the winter coming and killing off the or hers. No, I think it's hers is the spring coming and killing off the ice and the frost of the winter. So it's just they say it. It's tied to the stars because we use these for people who don't understand astronomy to be able to see certain events in the sky and then have a story that relates it to things that are going to happen on the ground, and that helps them remember it so they know when certain seasons are going to come based on what they see in the sky. But then there's also the take that are these actual events that happen. These were actual people, or maybe Artemis was not a woman, but maybe she was a starship of some sort. Her moon car.
I think it was a literal god.
I mean, it could
Or a
have been
literal giant. 'Cause I'm crazy, but I think this is the conclusion that I've come to with all the nonsensical talks we've had and all the hours of Coast to Coast AM I've listened to and all the ridiculous stuff that I can consume mixed with the factual stuff I can find. What if it's as simple as there used to be people that were much bigger than us, and the people that still have, I don't know, some kind of connection to that group of people still revere them even if they're gone?
Yeah.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, they always say,
possible. It's so hard to know because it's been so long ago, and then there's so much of it that has definitely been obscured or covered up or relegated to...
It's generation loss.
Yeah,
the big giants, like the big red-headed giants that you brought up way long time ago, just that Abe Lincoln talked about.
Yeah.
I'm saying they could keep getting bigger and bigger. So what if at some point in time they were just really big dinosaur-sized humans, and those were the gods?
Well, one thing things.
Something that kind of plays into that, and I can't think of what it is.
Attack on Titan? No, that's just porn.
This is an obelisk on Mars that they found. Or not an obelisk, it's a monolith. Could be an obelisk, but it's definitely a monolith. But what I think is funny, we got so many detailed photos of Mars, but this thing there doesn't seem to be any. It seems like there would be, like we said, this was on Mars. Okay. This is in the, let's see, what basin is it? I forget. It is the Usboi Vallis. And here's the high resolution picture from Mars. But you can see how much data there is on this thing. I don't know exactly where it is on here because this is a huge image, and this is from the high-rise imager orbiting Mars. Yeah, I don't know exactly where the one is. This was the picture I showed you here. Somebody else has found this. And this is a true picture. I found it this is on abovetopsecret.com, but I found this on several different sites. And they reckon it's a 300-foot obelisk or monolith and 86 feet wide. And some people are saying this is some sort of building. Other people saying that it matches what you would expect for the National Rock formations. Yeah, some people say it's a monument.
It's a monument. I can tell you right now, look at this dip down here. You see what this is? I'll make a case for you what this is. See the dip at the very top of it? Boop, boop. See it?
Right here.
Now, pay attention to the shape. Egg-shaped, right?
Yep.
Epstein's dick.
Wiener. Always a wiener with these people.
Specifically Epstein's dick.
How about that?
They said he had an egg dick. I don't know why that's relevant. But...
Well, let's look at this. So there's that strange, structure on Mars, but this one is from Phobos, the moon, and I think this one is more obelisk looking. Or more monolithic.
Pointy.
It's more square looking.
And yeah, it definitely looks more like a structure rather than a geological feature.
It is. Kind of looks like it would do this on the top, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of being flat, it seems like it would kind of do this shape,
Almost looks like it's like a triangle.
Like
shape.
A triangle that goes
Pyramided.
up on one side only, though.
Yeah. So let's listen to Buzz Aldrin talk about that a little bit. This
I want
video,
to see him punch a dude again.
This video is really hard to find. From C-SPAN. It's 1:11.
It's the dog's house.
We should go boldly where man has not gone before. Fly by the comets, visit asteroids, visit the moon of Mars. There's a monolith there, a very unusual structure on this little potato-shaped object that goes around Mars once in 7 hours. When people find out about that, they're going to say, who put that there? Who put that there? Well, the universe put it there. If you choose, God put it there.
So a lot of those videos of him saying that had been deleted for whatever reason. I didn't feel like he said anything that controversial, but there it is. And then we've all seen the famous photos, and here's another picture of the Phobos monolith here, from the Mars Global Surveyor in 1998. But it seems like that. Don't you think we would take more updated pictures of that? And this is back in 2009. We had from the Mail, and this is the Phobos again, a little different from the one on Mars. And they reckon it could be an unremarkable boulder. It could measure up to 5 meters across. 5 meters is not really that big.
What is 5 meters?
30 feet, 35 feet, thereabouts. So
The metric system is also an Illuminati plot.
It could be. But Buzz is using that to try to get people to go to Mars. And here's the face, the famous face. I've got a better picture of that though. So it's the Cydonia region of Mars, originally taken from the Viking 1 orbiter. And let's look at this picture right here. Now these dots are areas where they have trouble with the data. It's not actually in the picture. It's where the data didn't come back correctly because it was, fairly primitive digital photography. It's still using film, but also using radio signals to transmit it. So it was essentially film to digital transfer.
So if you take off that dot right there, there's no nostril. So that really makes it less facey if there's no nostril.
Yeah. But that, intrigued people for a long time. You saw it on the cover of Weekly World News and what was the other one? The Sun. Now
they showed that on like basic TV though.
Yeah. It was on Unsolved Mysteries. It was all over the place, and people were really excited about that. It's like now we don't even get excited about these things anymore. It's like even if you're interested in, like, if you think that the face on Mars is something, like, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like it doesn't really. There in the mainstream public back then, it was a big deal. Everybody wanted to know what that was, and when they came out with this. Some of these better photos as we went on, a lot of people kind of said, well, okay, I don't think that's what that is. But let's look a little closer here. This is from the European Space Agency's orbiter from 2006, and we can see a little bit better. Or is this a doctored CGI image? But this is the same thing.
What's with the holes? Do those craters not look right to you?
I don't know, man. They look like...
Look!
Yeah.
Why does it have a nipple? Why do they have rings around them?
Because that's where the material that comes out of them
comes out, so they're not impact craters.
They could be either one, but if they're impact craters,
why do they have O-rings? Why does every single one of them have like an O-ring?
I mean, I guess because they're
perfectly circular.
I guess because there's enough, not like the moon where you have everything blasting out into the atmosphere. It kind of falls back. I'm not sure.
Either way, it don't look right.
I don't know, but this is the face right here in the Cydonia region.
And a good face right here, 2 eyes.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Cheekbone, looks like something off Borderlands.
Yeah, and if you look at this though, doesn't that kind of look like some kind of
look at that big ass hole up there with the O-ring. I'm just telling you, at the very top.
Yeah.
Don't that look not right for some reason?
Why are they all perfectly?
That's what I'm saying. Why are they all perfectly circular, and why do they all have that band around the edge of them? And look, it's raised up quite a bit if you look at this one. That's a raise. That's not a...
It is. Look at the shadow right there.
That had to come from below, right?
I don't know.
Like little volcanoes or something from below?
I don't know. But I do think that image is very interesting anyway, because it kind of does almost look like some sort of arranged facility,
smokestacks.
Yeah, I mean, it could be some sort of industrial or some kind of the remnants of some city. I mean, how would we really know? But It does kind of make an interesting shape, if you ask me.
They always say that Martians live underground. They've been saying that since, since the first pictures of Mars came out, and they said that the straight lines were like canals or something, or streets.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of the
Stuff that looks like highways.
yeah, and well, a lot of the original telescopic images that they took from Earth, the best resolution telescopes that they had in the early 1900s, they did look like they had canals, but once they were able to resolve it a little bit better and have higher quality images, it was aberrations from. There wasn't actually a canal system or straight line system like it looked like. So you can take a modern, high dollar backyard telescope that's a couple $1,000s, and you can see close enough to where you can get insanely good images from backyard telescopes with a dark sky and a few $1,000s in equipment now. That stuff that they couldn't even get from the best NASA equipment just like 30 years ago, except for Hubble telescope, of course. And then now you've got the James Webb, which Tim thinks is fake. And you told
I
me.
remember us talking about it.
Yeah, you told me that you thought all those satellite images, that all those space telescope
Show me
images.
James Webb so I can give you a clear, on the spot, Tim interpretation of if I'm full of shit. 'Cause sometimes I'm just controversial and feel like arguing. Heads up, folks. Sometimes I'm not genuine.
And sometimes I feel like being a dick.
Well, not a dick, just
Remember we saw the new colored images, from the.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll shit on these. Let me look at them.
Here's the first images of the
Okay. That looks sweetened.
Carina Nebula, and it is sweetened.
They added those little sparkles and shit, didn't they?
No, they didn't add the
They didn't add the
sparkles.
sparkles.
But
What did they add?
okay, all this stuff that you see, all these clouds that you see right here, it's all with infrared. So visible light, you can't actually pick this up. And they also use spectroscopy to identify the different kinds of gases and color them in a different way. So it's all real stuff that they detected on their telescope, but it's colorized and it's all put into visible light. Well, like infrared light's not visible, but it's there.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff is
Like
things that,
Photoshop trickery to me.
well, to a degree it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
To a degree it is, but ultimately it's all data that the telescopes collect, and then they put it into a visual form, which is pretty much what any digital
Yeah.
camera
My fart's
does.
a data.
It is.
But that's what I was thinking. Look at this kloof bloof. Oh,
it's like if-
zoom in. That's a face. Zoom in on that fart cluster. That's a skull or something. It's got a big beard coming down to form the rest of the cloud.
Looks
He's
like a
got
Dark
stars in his
Souls
eyes.
boss.
He's like vomiting the whole cloud down.
It's like the Crypt Keeper Dark Souls sky boss.
But like,
See, these are stars that are in the foreground.
I get, they don't look right.
Yeah, those stars, all of them having the perfect star.
That's what I'm saying. Why do they all look like they're the Star of Bethlehem on a Christmas play? All
Well,
of them.
Because that one's the exact same as that one.
Yeah,
I'm saying.
but it's because there's it's a long exposure, and that's just the way they do them to differentiate. They do collect that data from them, but
It just seems like it's not all real though.
no, it's not all real. It's not. But
Home run.
anyway, like you collect the data, that's what you come up with. But one of the interesting things that I was going to tell you about Apollo is Apollo was also a god of creation and god of the fine arts. And he was the god of music. Well, while he was exiled from being a god and confined to the earth, he had...
A very lucrative metal career.
Yeah, Apollyon. They sing about him in a lot of the Behemoth albums. They sing about Apollyon a lot, and Apollyon the Destroyer. But Apollyon was also a great builder. While he was confined to the earth, and while he was exiled from being a god, he supposedly built the city of Troy. And they say that rather than sully his hands by actually building it, he sat and played his music, and by his music alone, the tones that he played actually constructed the walls of the city of Troy. So I thought that was pretty interesting about energy, as we were talking earlier about, there's got to be a better way. Well, Apollo apparently had a sound generation system that allowed him to build things, and there was also stories, and I wish I'd known we were going to talk about this tonight, because there was a story I read years ago about it, and it was an anthropologist, but he was a very storied anthropologist, and he had a very good reputation, and he claimed that he was in Tibet. He saw a group of monks using some special metal drums and horns that they used to levitate blocks up a 50-foot cliff. And this was, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a very famous archaeologist or anthropologist, and he's not somebody that had a reputation for just making things up. He had a very good reputation, and he claimed that he saw that with his own eyes. So there's several stories of that, and then you also know about, resonant frequencies, how you can vibrate have a pitch of a certain frequency, and it will cause objects in the room to move. Well, if you were able to, capture that and refine that ability, theoretically you could probably levitate and move objects, and it wouldn't really matter how big they were as long as you had the ability to produce the frequency at scale. So,
have you seen the wine glass dude?
Yeah.
Where he just sits there and goes, at the glass until the straw hits dead center and one side of the glass busts out.
Yeah.
So it always makes me think, he puts the straw in there because he said he uses as because once the straw goes in the middle, he knows he's got it where it's at.
Yeah.
And it causes the glass to compromise. But, if you think of that same method, if you could get something to, I don't know, it seems plausible. It seems like it'd be really, really loud, though, to get things to obey sound.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily have to be loud. It could be really, really quiet. It could be, inaudible. We're just like our visible range is only within
but the implications of the inaudible doesn't, I don't think you could get, you've heard, real low, gonna shit your brick pants.
The brown noise.
Yeah, you still feel it even though it's just decibels and not necessarily sound, so I think it would still have to be loud.
Yeah.
Well, if you think of it, light, sound, they're the same thing, just different speeds.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the whole?
It's all energy.
The music tier iceberg where you get to the bottom where you realize pitch and rhythm are the same.
When
you start speed up.
Never really thought about it in that way, but yeah, they are.
When you slow down a sine note just slow enough, it actually just turns into a BPM.
Yep, he's right. And so you think about it though. You take the resonant frequency for that glass over there or whatever, and rather than just finding the frequency to make it shatter and break, maybe you find a resonant frequency, a particular
where gravity doesn't want to work on it.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? And if it's like the electric universe theory is right, then it's all a function of electricity anyway, which would, frequency could also fall into that. Sound frequency would also fall into that. So, I mean, I think there's definitely something to it, and I think there's definitely other forms of propulsion than rocketry to be able to do this. But at the same time, it's almost like in 1984, why do they fight the wars all the time? It's not because they really have an enemy. It's because everybody needs to have something to do, and they got to have something to keep the machine going, basically. And who knows, maybe that's the reason we still use rocketry, is it's all part of the machine that we're all keeping going. Wild Bluff Screamer, thank you for the comment. Says there's lots of interesting stories about manipulating matter. The biblical story of trumpets bringing the walls down. Yeah, that's right. Who's that? Joshua and Caleb walk around the city of Jericho and blow the trumpets and blow the walls down. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Stories of indigenous people saying monoliths were levitated into place. Yep.
I want to create, or somebody should, maybe I'll do it. The movie, what was that stupid movie? Wah, 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 wah. Is it Contact the Third Kind or whatever it was, where the guy keeps making the devil's power in different shapes and stuff? Go to the end where the government's sitting there trying to communicate with them with the boop, 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 and replace it with death clock sounds and stuff like boop, boop. It's like having where the aliens only communicate with metal.
Kind of like that troll that Death Clock woke up.
Okay,
we never did.
We'll use Hypocrisy's albums like Roswell 22 because that'll work.
And somebody was asking us to look into the Finnish troll mythology. I'm sorry we haven't done that.
The what now?
Not something I know about.
Finnish.
Finland? Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry I haven't done that yet. It's not something I really know about. Most of the time I've been trying to find topics that I'm already somewhat familiar with and then brush back up on them and kind of present them as, in discussion form to hear your thoughts on them. So I don't know a lot about that, so we'll need to look that up and learn some more about it. But that Death Clock or that Metalocalypse episode where they play the acoustic instruments and summon the troll, yes, that's an awesome episode.
Awaken.
Well, listen, it's 11:53. So I don't think we're going to solve the mysteries of Artemis's arrow or the fields of Sidonia or Black Knight or White Knight, but I had a good time talking about it, and I had a good time hearing your theories, and Tim turning it into Smurf porn. So
Always.
yeah, that's right.
We got
It's
smurfed.
about homunculi. It always comes full circle.
Yeah. Our Smurf homunculi?
Have to be. They're tiny people. Or I don't know what Gargamel's always trying to do.
Do you think he made the Smurfs?
He made Smurfette to disrupt their flow.
Really?
Yeah, so apparently Smurfs were just
The
asexual at that point.
Smurfs, they're monks, and he's
That's pretty interesting.
Gave them something that they
gave
weren't.
him something to lust over.
Hey, did you guys hear about the monks that were, I think they were in Tibet, and they like busted the whole monastery? They were all on crystal meth.
Where did they get crystal
I
meth?
don't know. It's not, no more details have been released. Like, was it in the water? Did somebody drug them in the water supply? Did
Sounds
they,
like a CIA operation.
did they can somehow convince one of the monks to get
They
all
all
the
just
other guys
really
on
were
crystal
bored.
meth, or
Oh, just
maybe just a
like-
bunch of addicts went up to the hills of Tibet and started calling themselves monks?
They were like, fuck Nirvana, let's do meth.
Maybe they found Nirvana, or maybe they found Nirvana in meth.
They're
Maybe
sitting
that's where
around
to find-
finding Nirvana, listening to Nirvana on meth. Light my candles.
Finally was a cracker. All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Hey, come back on Wednesday night. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done all that already. I should have said that at the beginning of the video, but sometimes I'm just so ready to get into the show, I don't think about it. But if you're still with us, I appreciate you sticking with us that long. Be sure and do all that stuff. Come back with us on Wednesday. We're going to talk news and current events. We're going to get into the Twitter files a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. I got one more thing. So, I forgot to do the moon trees, because the moon trees, one of the moon trees ended up in Sycamore Shoals, and what it was is NASA, they had a plan, if you believe all this stuff, to put tree seeds in orbit as part of the Apollo program, the Apollo 14 mission, and what they wanted to do was take the seedlings, the seeds from different kinds of trees, and put them in orbit around the moon in 1971. And then they brought them back to Earth and planted them all through the United States as part of the bicentennial celebration in 1976. And they were a tribute to Stuart Roosa, a former U.S. Forest Service smoke jumper, and the Apollo mission. So Roosa was chosen for the Apollo 14 mission, and he was contacted about bringing seeds into space, and the Forestry Service was in charge of finding the seeds, choosing the different kinds. They used loblolly pine, sycamore, sweet gum, redwood, and Douglas fir, and they were put in small bags inside a metal container, and they were kept on Earth for later comparison. And they took 2,000 or so of them and put them around the moon and orbited them for they were exposed to the vacuum in the space in the space capsule, and they brought them back in and germinated them and planted them all over the place. And one of the places that they planted them was here in Carter County at Sycamore Shoals, and it was a sycamore tree. And this one right here, let's see, we got a list of them.
We have a moon tree nearby.
Yeah, we got one in Sycamore. It's dead now, but
It's dead.
yeah.
Is it stumped there?
Yeah, it is. They found no difference in them. They found no difference. This one's in Knoxville at the University of Tennessee. Loblolly pine is put in 76. Let's find the the Elizabeth in Tennessee one. Here it is. Sycamore Shoals State Park. It was also put in 76. And here's a picture of it.
I want to see the stump.
Actually, I should have had this ready, but B took a picture of the stump of it. It died, and they cut it down to about right here, and termites are eating it.
Fucking termites.
Yeah, but that's the moon tree. We got one nearby, and it's still there, so it's pretty cool. You can go check
raise
it
money
out.
to burn a NASA logo on the top of it or something. Or build like a shrine to the devil around it. They'd probably let us do that.
If we wanted to do that, they would. We could say
have a sex ritual on top of it.
Yeah, and if they don't let us, we'll just say that they are bigots.
Yeah, for not letting me jerk off on that tree.
Bigot.
I'm an objectophile, and I have a thing for trees. that were in outer space at one point, and I have very few options in the world. This is my only chance to make love. Now,
Well, you can go on down to Knoxville.
I ain't going to Knoxville.
They
I'm not
still
gonna
got
walk
the-
right up the road and bang that tree.
They still got their mind. They still got their lovely pine.
Is that one still off? Maybe I'm a necro.
As far as I know, it is.
Maybe I'm into necro shit too, and I only want to
Tree,
fucking dead tree.
necrophilia tree. So here's a story.
Necrophile.
Yeah,
Is that what that is?
I'm glad you have a name for it.
So these went to the Tennessee Department of Conservation's Forestry Division. They're going to be planted in the state, and they went to the University of Tennessee and Sycamore Shoals, and that's where they ended up, and that's where they are. And you can still go check those out. Pretty neat. If you want to touch something that's been in orbit around the moon, you can go up there and lay your hands on it. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Or jerk off on it. I mean, you should make love to that tree. It needs it. Maybe it'll grow back. Maybe that's why it died.
Maybe
I
not.
bet termites won't eat jizz.
Oh Lord. Well,
How popular. Try.
Interesting form of pest control. Make love to that tree. It's the only way to save it.
if we must. Well, hey, listen. And that'd be an interesting
It's a different
episode
kind
of
of
Black
nut
Mirror.
tree.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, before we get any crazier or nastier, we appreciate you for joining us, and we definitely look forward to seeing you back for our next episode, and we will see you on Wednesday. And Spill, thank you so much for the idea for the episode. I've had a lot of fun putting it together and had a lot of fun talking about it. I hope you did too, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.